Let us start the 32nd session of Secrets of Spirituality. You are seeing this picture on the screen where the sentence can be read. Your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by choice. So this has been the repetition of whatever I had told in the previous session at the ending. If you keep doing whatever you have been doing, you will keep getting whatever you have been getting. And if you keep doing whatever others are doing, you will keep getting whatever others are getting. Same way, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by choice. Even today, there are so many people who go to palmists, who go to astrologers to know their future. Now, when those astrologers and palmists themselves are putting a roadside board everywhere saying all types of Hanuman Jyotishalaya, Adishakti Jyotishalaya, and all types of such marketing slogans, if they are in contact with Adishakti, then why are they dependent on the other people for their livelihood? If Hanuman is gracing them, then why should they have such small petty shops at the street sides? And why should they make all those strenuous efforts to publicize that they have a lot of power on others' lives maybe? But if that power is not useful for their own life, why are they living a low quality life that way? No one thinks about this when they go to astrologer. That means the people who are less intellectuals, they depend on somebody else for their future or for their life as such. In effect, what happens is they only get victimized. They don't understand that to the person whom they are going, if that person himself or herself is dependent on the money that is being given by these clients or customers, so to say, now whose future is dependent on whom? And whose future is secure now here? That should be thought of by means of an intellectual domain. As long as people don't think that way, people will become victimized for their future. And they think that life will somehow become better by chance, by going to some temple, or by offering some worship, or by involving in some ritual, or by doing something which the astrologist tells them to do. That way they get victimized. I'm not talking about the tantric astrology here. I am only talking about the commercial astrology. Astrology has got a spiritual domain or tantric or technical domain as well. But such astrologers do not come into limelight. They remain humble, humane, and they don't depend on the general public for the show cause of their knowledge. In fact, such tantric astrologers do not put a street side board also. They do not publicize themselves also. Such people are in real connection with the divinity, and they don't depend on other innocent people or ignorant people for their livelihood. Same way, astrology as part of Vedanga, that is a highly sacred mathematical calculation. There is something called Ganita and there is something called Phalita. Ganita Jyotisha, Phalita Jyotisha. Now, Ganita Jyotisha is a straightforward calculation about timings. When eclipse is going to happen, when full moon day and new moon day are going to happen. And that is basically about astronomical measurements along with astrological knowledge. Definitely the planets have influence on nature, and definitely nature has influence on life forms. That is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, there is a Jyotisha called Phalita Jyotisha. which means if the person's natal chart can be related to the planetary movements, now there can be a prediction of resonance, there can be a prediction of increase in energy, and in such case there can be a prediction of dasha, dasha bhukti, and gradually there can be a prediction of some favorable time durations in which if efforts are put, results are possible. But always in Phalita Jyotisha, nothing is guaranteed. In Ganita Jyotisha, everything is guaranteed. Even today in the Indian system, the Almanak or Panchanga that is available, 5 parts in the calendar, that is Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, Yoga, Karana, that is complete Ganita Jyotisha. And using Ganita Jyotisha, it is possible to predict some favorable time durations where energetical influence on human lives can be predicted. But again, nothing can be guaranteed. That is why your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by choice. But if a tantric astrologer is there, or if a tantric astrologer is in connection with the divine presence, then there are intuitive guidances given, and there can be some simple methodologies advised by means of which some changes in the mindset of the people is possible. That is part of tantric astrology. But most of the people not at all aware that a tantric astrology also exists, or astrology as a sacred branch of knowledge also is existing. Because through all these means of commercialization, people really don't know what is the true branch of knowledge and what is the showcased branch of knowledge, or who are the true knowledgeable people, who are the false people who are showcasing themselves as knowledgeable people. But ultimately it is again a matter of choice. As Jesus has told, seek and you shall obtain, right? For those who seek, truth is available. For those who do not seek, or those who do not search, and those who simply remain opportunistic only to get some benefit out of all the available resources that are possible, for them life does not get better by chance, and they will not make a better choice also, and the life remains the same. Let me tell you a small story. This is a fictitious story, but still a humorous story. In Japan and in China, they consume almost every moving creature. That is known to you also. In fact, in Japan, there is very less land for vegetation, so they consume more of fishes. They regularly catch fish from the surrounding ocean, and eating fish or consuming fish is very common in Japan. And they keep on consuming other moving creatures as well. So in this story, even though this is a fictitious story, in this story one Japanese company places order to an Indian supplier who supplies crabs to Japan, and the Japanese people consume crabs. So one day one Japanese customer places an order for 1000 crabs to an Indian supplier, and the Indian supplier ships the consignment to Japan. When the consignment reaches Japan, the customer opens the container and he sees that in the consignment the box's lid is open. And now the Japanese customer calls back to the Indian supplier and he says, when the consignment is received here, it seems that the box was not closed at all. There was no packing happening at all. Box was sent with the lid open. And now we don't know whether there are really 1000 crabs or not. We had ordered for 1000 crabs, live crabs, and during the shipment, many crabs might have escaped from the box. Now the Indian supplier says the box was sent that way so that you will have fresh crabs there. Otherwise, if the box is closed, there are chances that the crabs will suffocate and crabs will die within the box itself. That is why purposefully we had left the box's lid open so that the crabs will have enough fresh air to breathe, and that is how crabs remain fresh and live. Now again the Japanese customer told, what if in the transit, if the crabs have been escaped out of the box? Now the Indian supplier says, you don't know about the Indian crabs. If one crab tries to crawl out of the box, there will be other 4 crabs who will pull it down, due to which no crab will be escaping out of the box. That is how our Indian crabs are. You don't know about them. If you want, you can count all of them. Now at Japan, the customer says somebody to count all the number of crabs. There will be exactly 1000 crabs in the box. And the Japanese customer then calls the Indian supplier and he says, you are right, your Indian crabs are all there. If one crab is trying to get out of the box, other 4 crabs will be pulling it down. That is how Indian people are. I should not say Indian people. India is a great country that way. But wherever there are more number of people, there is more competition. When there is more competition, nobody wants to become excellent. If anybody tries to become excellent also, somebody else will be pulling down. If people remain that way, then life does not get better by chance. It gets better by choice. Somehow, if you want to become excellent, then you should be away from the people who have this crab mentality. I keep referring to such people as crab mentality people. Even though crabs may not be like that, we really don't know whether crabs really do like that or not. Because generally people say ostrich syndrome means ostrich will put its head inside the sand and ostrich will keep thinking that nobody is watching me. But really whether the ostrich does it or not, we don't know. They keep on telling that way about ostrich. Same way people keep on telling about crabs also. Crabs may not be really that way, but humans are really having the crab mentality. So in such a case, if you have to become really excellent, or if you have to make your life better, then you should be ensuring yourself enough that you are away from the people who are having such crab mentality. That way I will repeat this sentence once again. Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by choice. Always it is lonely at the top. At the bottom, it is always filled with crab mentality people. At the top, it is always in general lonely. So that at the top, if you have to be lonely, again that has to be your choice to become better. Otherwise, people will remain at the lower level with all types of struggles, competitions, jealousies, pulling the legs, and this way it goes on. Maybe pulling the legs is meant for these crabs only that way. I really don't know. Maybe the terminology came that way. So if you don't want others to pull your legs, you must be strong enough or heavy enough so that no one will be daring to pull your leg. You should not give a chance for the other people to pull your leg. That means you must be far away. You must be at the higher plane than the normal, mundane, common, ordinary people. Let me go to the next slide. Before that, let me repeat the sentence once again. Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by choice. Coming to the descriptions of yogic path itself. Hippocrates told one sentence many centuries before. Before you heal someone, ask him if he is willing to give up the things that made him sick. It is very ironic that in the present scenario, maybe the medical doctors, are they really trying this or not, is questionable. Before you heal someone, ask him if he is willing to give up the things that made him sick. I should tell you an example of my uncle who passed away a few years before. My uncle was a chain smoker and he was a habitual drunkard. And he had made himself that way since many decades. And because of this smoking habit as well as drinking habit, he had serious liver issues and he was surgically operated and his throat was seriously repaired and he could not speak properly later on after the surgery. Still, he did not stop his smoking habit, neither the drinking habit. One day, a few years before, one day when I went to native place, when he was alive, I had conducted a small workshop to my family members. Hardly about 3 to 4 hours of workshop where I taught some methods of pranayama and I told about some health remedies and I mentioned about my companionship or my acquaintance with the Yogavana Swamiji. Now my uncle asked, will you take me to Yogavana Swamiji where I want to get medicines from him and I want to become alright. I still want to eat chicken now. But doctor has told me not to eat chicken at all because my liver is weak now. So if at all my liver becomes alright, I still want to taste chicken. Now that was his wish. I said, I can take you there, but Yogavana Swamiji will give you some advices and tell you something to follow. Will you be able to follow? He said, all right, I'll come there, I'll follow all his advices. Now he came to Bengaluru and he went to meet Yogavana Swamiji. The first question Yogavana Swamiji asked was, will you stop smoking? Will you stop drinking liquor? If you do that, then only I'll give you medicines. Otherwise, you can go back. The medicines are not going to work on your body. And Yogavana Swamiji told, you take your own time, you decide. After you decide, you come back and tell me that you are going to quit smoking, you are going to quit drinking liquor. Later on only I will give you all my medicines. Now my uncle took almost 2 hours to take this decision. After about 2 hours, he went back to Yogavana Swamiji and told him that I have decided that I will quit smoking, I will quit drinking liquor. Later on, Yogavana Swamiji gave him many medicines for the rejuvenation of his body, and he told him that you will have to quit drinking coffee and tea also, and you will have to quit smoking, quit drinking liquor, only then these medicines will work on you. And you start taking these medicines only when you quit all these 3. And my uncle came back. And my uncle went back to native place. Few months over, few years over. No change. Because he did not stop smoking, he did not stop drinking liquor, he did not stop coffee and tea also. And he did not start consuming those medicines also. Unnecessarily he came here, he took the medicines and he went back. He did not start consuming the medicines also. And he passed away after a few years without any change. Simply he wasted his money on those medicines, and even those medicines were not utilized by others also. They were simply dumped out. One more funny thing is, he was there in our home for nearly a week when he came to Bengaluru, and I had arranged all my books on a particular table there. After he went back to his native place, I was again rearranging the books. In the middle of my own books, many of them are spiritual books, in the middle of my own books, I found a small whiskey bottle. And I asked my wife, I asked my son, who brought this whiskey bottle here and how is it in the middle of my books? Then my wife told me it must have been my uncle only who used to go out in the daytime outside somewhere and he used to come back. In the evening, he used to be at home only because he was afraid of my speech with him. So in the evening, he never used to go out. So for drinking liquor, he was going in the afternoon and silently he must have brought that small bottle. He had kept it in the middle of my books only on the table. I had thought that this person will never change. Same thing happened. He never changed and he passed away. So remember the sentence of Hippocrates. Before you heal someone, ask him if he is willing to give up the things that made him sick. Otherwise, there is no point in healing someone. Of course, in the present medical scenario, healing is not happening, only treatment is happening. Diagnosis is happening and sales of medicines are happening. Neither the doctors are willing to change the patient's bad habits, nor the patient is willing to change. Now, how can help come as long as the reason for sickness remains? That is why whenever I take people for my yoga classes, I make it mandatory that no meat eating, no liquor drinking, no smoking. If these three are there, then only I can teach pranayama. Otherwise, think that if inside your stomach, if there's a dead chicken, dead bird, or a dead animal, if it is there right now inside your stomach, if at all I initiate you to Gayatri Mantra, what is the point? What is the point that in your hand you will have rosary beads and I teach you or I initiate you into meditation process, whereas inside the stomach there is a dead bird or dead animal? What is the point? It is simply spiritual hypocrisy. That's why I have made it a compulsory rule this way. Now people may think again, what if, how will you know that whether we are involved in that or not? That way they may think, but they may not continue with me for more than a few weeks or more than a few months. Because gradually my speech with them or my content delivery of spirituality or yogic terminologies will be so strong with them, either they will have to escape out of my classes or they will have to follow the guidelines. They have got no other choice. Those who follow the guidelines, they will stay with this education system. Those who cannot follow the guidelines, they will simply go away from this path itself. It is good for them, it is good for me that way. I should tell you one more small incident. I think last year, I went to meet one particular holy person along with few of my students, and there, that particular holy person mentioned about my yogic teaching activities in Bengaluru with the visitor who had come there. Now that visitor took my phone number, and that particular visitor, after coming back to Bengaluru, made a call to me. And that particular person told me that in Bengaluru they have a particular place where they are running some classes on exercises, and they have a gymnasium also there, and they have many people visiting there. There are many exercises being taught. Now this person wants to add yoga practices also into the menu card there. It is like a menu card there, where the person wants to satisfy all the people coming over there with the different types of varieties of exercises. So that person wanted to have yoga also along with other exercises. So that person asked me, can you come over here and can you teach some of the yogic practices of your lineage so that it will benefit to people? Then I told that person that these are my conditions. Whomever I want to teach or whoever wants to learn from me, no liquor, no meat, and no smoking. Now that person told, that cannot be told to the people who are coming here because majority of them are youngsters. They come to the gymnasium for fitness and health only. So in such a case, If at all this is told to them, nobody may be willing to learn. Then I told to the same person, I am not willing to teach to such people also. Those who follow the guidelines, only for them I will be able to teach. Otherwise there is no use. After I teach some sacred things, if there is no characteristic change, then there is no point in me teaching those things to the people. As Jesus Christ himself has told in the Bible that don't throw your pearls in front of the swines. Same way Jedara Dasimaya has told, Katte ballude kasturiya vasaneya, ತೊತ್ತು ಬಲ್ಲಳೆ ಗುರುಹಿರಿಯರ ಮಹಿಮೆಯ ಭಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನರಿಯದ ವ್ಯರ್ಥ ಜೀವಿಗಳು ನಿಮ್ಮ ನೆತ್ತಬಲ್ಲರೈ ರಾಮನಾಥ. Does the donkey know about the fragrance of kasturi? Does the maidservant know about the greatness of spiritual masters? Those who do not have devotion in their heart, how they can realize God? So in that way, how can I teach yoga to people who are not ready to change their lifestyle that way? They are not ready to follow the guidelines that way. Now that person asked me, that way you will not become popular at all. Then I told that person, who told you that I am going to become popular? What made you think that I want to become popular? I am not here to become popular at all. I am not here to make a characteristic change in the lifestyle of the people who really want to be aspiring to become better people. Otherwise, you can keep doing whatever you want to do. I will not be able to come to your place to teach. And she simply hung up the call. Now, again, I'll read this sentence. Before you heal someone, ask him if he is willing to give up the things that made him sick. Whatever is making the people sick, that should be identified by the healer. That is what is basically diagnosis. It need not be diagnosis always by the technical equipments. It need not always be all types of tests like ECG or EEG or MRI scanning or whatever way. Always blood test, urine test, feces test, sweat test. Is it diagnosis? Diagnosis means the healer must be able to understand what is making the person sick. Whether is it a food habit, whether it's a lifestyle, whether it's a nutrition deficiency, whether it is a lack of exercise. That way healer must be able to advise the patient. Otherwise the patient will remain patient lifelong. That way I should say that the medical community has failed its purpose of making people healthy. People have remained sick, sometimes chronically sick, lifelong, consuming medicines lifelong. Now what is healing then? If the people are ignorant about what is making them sick, then the healer must advise them, tell them what is making them sick. Then they must be ready to give up those things that is making them sick. Only then physical health is possible, mental health is possible, spiritual health is possible. Let me continue. Let me continue with the brief recapitulation of the term yoga itself. This was already told earlier in my second set of slides. So I will be going on a little faster from now on. As I have already completed all the basics of spirituality, now the next set of slides is only going to reinstate whatever I have told till now. So from now on, if the listeners have any questions, you can keep on putting those questions in the chat box, and by 8:45 I will be looking at the chat box, and for whatever questions I can give an answer, I will make an effort to answer. Let me see how many listeners are there. Okay, there are 17 listeners now. If you have any questions, you can keep on putting it in the chat box from now on till the end of this presentation. So let me repeat, the term yoga means union. The purpose of yoga is to join ourselves with the divine energy, which means to join Jivatma with the Paramatma. Jiva is the one who feels it is me, and Paramatma is the one who made me to feel as me. So it is like Paramatma is the water and Jivatma is the fish. When fish is in contact with water, the life of the fish is gratified. The life of the fish became more meaningful. So that is the basic purpose of yoga. Jivatma is the individual conscious energy and Paramatma is the total unconscious presence, which in general terms is called as God. Jivatma is the individual conscious energy. That means when you regain your consciousness, when you wake up, when you get connected with your sense organs, and you feel that you are existing now. That is the individual conscious energy. And Paramatma is the total unconscious presence. Paramatma or God is not unconscious. Jivatma or the ego is unconscious of God. Now, Jivatma should make an earnest effort to become conscious of God. That's why I had told earlier also that meditation is consciously becoming unconscious. So, if an earnest effort is made by every Jivatma or by every individual so as to reduce the ego, so as to realize the self, that is why this is called as Jivatma is the individual conscious energy and Paramatma is the total unconscious presence, which in general terms is called as God. You call as God, you call as consciousness, you call as divinity, in whatever way. Hence the practice of yoga leads to find out your origination in God's action, Y-O-G-A. I had already told about it at length earlier, so I'll not repeat all these things again and again. Let me go a little faster from now on. The descriptions. I had mentioned earlier that there are 4 basic types of yoga or basic branches of yoga. First one is mantra yoga. Mantra yoga is the process of chanting mantras either orally or mentally, by means of which the resonant energy is produced within the body and mind is brought under control. Basically, there are 3 types of japa or chanting called as Vachika, Upamshu, Manasi. Vachika means oral chanting, Upamshu means whispering the mantra, and Manasi means completely chanting mentally. Out of all these 3, the mental chanting is the best one out of all. But for the children, when they are initiated into the practice of mantra, as the children's mind remains more vacillating, it is advised that the children let them orally chant it, so that the chanting of the words orally is going to be listened again by the child, and the child will remember the mantra in a better way. Now gradually it has to become Upamshu, means oral chanting should gradually become a whispering, and when the child becomes an adult, that chanting should completely become mental, because mananat trayate iti mantraha. Ultimately, the chanting of the mantra should protect the mind itself. That way, Shiva Samhita says that out of all the 4 branches of yoga or 4 types of yoga, mantra yoga is the easiest one. Means it is very easy to initiate anybody into the path of yoga by means of initiating into a mantra and then advising the person to keep on chanting the mantra, let us say 108 times in a day, whenever a free time is available, so that gradually thoughts are arrested and mind is brought under control. The mantra has further benefits. Mantra is not just a combination of some syllables or some alphabets. In general, some specific mantras called tantric mantras, there is a specific combination of alphabets in those tantric mantras, and at that time, due to the continuous chanting of that particular combination of these syllables, a particular energy is going to be produced in the body. Gradually, even though the chanting is happening at the brain is completely connected to the body by means of the nervous system. And when the brain generates such energy within, gradually the same energy will be transferred throughout the body. And that way, a resonant energy is produced within the body. So chanting of the mantra is not for the sake of simply stilling the mind. It has many other side benefits. Even though the main purpose is to bring the mind under control, there are other benefits. That is why even in mantra, there are technical mantras, means there are tantric mantras. Now that is the first branch of yoga called mantra yoga. The next branch is called laya yoga. It is the process of spiritual exercises by means of which the thoughts in the mind are dissolved. This is slightly different from mantra yoga. In a sense, in laya yoga, there will be a conscious effort to reduce the thoughts. In mantra yoga, there is no conscious effort. In mantra yoga, there is a conscious effort to chant the mantra, not to reduce the thoughts. But through mantra yoga, a single thought remains. Mantra itself remains. Other thoughts are gone away. But in laya yoga, there are other specific exercises, spiritual exercises. These are not just physical or mental exercises. By means of spiritual exercises, gradually the thoughts in the mind are dissolved. Thoughts should not arise at all. So that way, laya yoga is slightly different from mantra yoga. Laya itself means dissolution. Dissolution of thoughts. When thoughts themselves are dissolved in the mind will cease to exist at all. Because as long as mind exists, mind involves in thoughts. Basically, it is memory recall, memory storage. From the memory, thoughts are recalled, or whatever is stored in the memory, information is recalled, and each type of information is enjoined with some other type of information, and either imagination or visualization goes on, if the mind is left for itself. So when the thoughts themselves are dissolved, mind has no other task to do, and mind will cease to exist. When mind ceases to exist, automatically the source of the mind is unraveled. That is the process of laya yoga. Hatha yoga is the process of purifying body, mind and soul by means of applying the force. Now, body should be stable, body should be healthy, body should be flexible. If you want to sit down in a place for 2 hours, your body must be allowing you to do that. Or you must be making your body like that. So you will have to apply force to the body to sit in a place, maybe for 1 hour, maybe for 2 hours. My dear friends, when I was going to my guru's classes, we used to have classes continuously for 3 hours or for 4 hours. At times, whenever we used to go to some other places where either my Guruji used to take or his other assistant called Lata Madan, she used to take us. At times, we used to have discussions and practices whole day, morning till evening. And we were not having any comfortable pushback seats there. We were normal people sitting below on a mat. And even those people who were teaching us, they were also not sitting on sofa sets. They were sitting slightly above on a stage, but they were also sitting like normal people only. And we used to spend very quality time together for many hours, not just 1 hour or 2 hours. Now, if you have to sit and listen, body must be cooperating. That means body must be flexible, body must be adaptable. So body needs to be purified that way by applying force. If your body is not obedient to you, you should make your body obedient to you by applying force to your body. That way Hatha Yoga is tougher than Laya Yoga, where you will have to apply force on the body, you will have to apply force on the mind. There are many people who come to me and they keep saying that they don't get concentration. I tell them that you are telling lie. And they say, no sir, I don't get concentration for studies. Again I say you are telling lie. If at all you are watching a Rajnikant movie, you will watch the movie fully with lot of enjoyment, right? Now then you don't say that you lack concentration for a 3 hours movie. Or if you are watching a cricket match, let us say your favorite team is playing and you are eager to know whether it is winning or losing. You will not lose concentration for all those hours when you are watching a cricket match. Why do we say that you don't get concentration at all? You should say that your interests are different. Now you don't say that, you don't have concentration. If you want to gain concentration in studies, then apply force. Apply force on yourself, remain steady. Focus on your goal. If you don't apply force on the mind, you keep on blaming on the mind that your mind is not coming under your control. Now who has to control what? Who should decide? So on one side there must be a force applied on the body. On the next side there must be a force applied on the mind. Then lastly you must apply force on yourself. You must apply force on the soul. Soul is yourself. You will have to apply force on yourself that what you want to gain, what you want to achieve, what exactly you want in life. Now for whatever you are wanting in life, what are you going to do for that? And in what way you are going to put your efforts for that? You should apply force for that. My dear friends, everybody is having 24 hours only in a day. Those 24 hours, how do we use is up to us. So that's a conscious decision, either to utilize the time or to waste the time. People need not keep blaming that they don't have time. Everybody is having the same 24 hours time. Whether it is a yogi, or it is a bhogi, or it is a rogi, or it is a tyagi. For all of them, it is 24 hours only. How each one makes use of this 24 hours is up to their conscious decisions. So that way, you will have to apply force on the body, you will have to apply force on the mind, you will have to apply force on the soul. Soul is yourself. Again, I should appreciate Patanjali. Why? Asana and pranayama is for purifying the body. Pratyahara and dharana is for purifying the mind. Dhyana and samadhi is for purifying the soul. All these 6 are by applying force only. While practicing yogasana, applying force on the body. While practicing pranayama, applying force on the breath and on the lungs, on the breathing apparatus. While practicing pratyahara, applying force on the sensory inputs, on the mind. While practicing dharana, again applying force on the memory recall, that is, applying force on the mind itself. While practicing dhyana, becoming egoless, becoming thoughtless, applying force on the soul, and gradually getting into samadhi, getting one with the self, getting one with the divinity, by applying force only. That way Hatha Yoga is tougher than Laya Yoga. Lastly, Raja Yoga is the process of deep observation and correction to gain complete control over all the physical and psychological activities and to attain perfection. This is the process of deep observation and correction. What went wrong? Why it went wrong? In what way it could have been corrected? Now how it can be corrected? How can it be made right? How can we have a righteous living? That is requiring observation of the faults and correction of the faults. For the observation of the faults, it is required that an introspection is happening by means of applying force. That is Hatha Yoga. For the women folk, this word can be mentioned as Rani Yoga. Otherwise, why my women listeners will become upset? Why is it called as Raja Yoga? It is called as Raja Yoga because a man would have written that book, Shiva Samhita, or any other yogic book. Most of the yogic books or spiritual books are written by men only. See, if woman would have written a book, she would have named it as Rani Yoga only. In whichever way you call it, it is the process of deep observation and correction to gain complete control over all the physical and psychological activities and to attain perfection. Now, Mantra Yoga is easiest, Raja Yoga is toughest, or Rani Yoga is toughest. Why? It takes many lifetimes to understand God Himself. It takes many lifetimes to understand the truths of life. If life is not understood while living, and gradually life will come back for learning. Regarding those secrets, I am going to tell you again in the last set of my slides. In the fifth set of my slides, I am going to discuss more about rebirth and reincarnation. And again, I am going to tell you, lessons will be repeated until lessons are learnt. That way, Raja Yoga is the process of deep observation and correction. That is where the theory of karma also comes into picture. If something is going wrong, why is it going wrong? Who is causing it wrong? And in what way it can be corrected? In what way righteousness can be brought out? That has to be observed and that has to be corrected. Otherwise, nothing is going to change. Now, how the physical control can be obtained, how the psychological control can be obtained, and how perfection can be obtained by overcoming all the physical or psychological limitations. That is where there is Hatha Yoga. Applying force on the body, applying force on the mind, applying force on the soul. So basically, Patanjali gave us a great system of Ashtanga Yoga, which actually comprises of all these four. What happens here is, at times, there are some people who are involved only in chanting of the mantras. And lifelong, they will keep on chanting only the mantras. They do not do anything else. And there are some people who keep on meditating lifelong. They do not do anything else. And there are some people who keep on applying force on the body only, lifelong practicing asana pranayama. There are so many varieties of asanas which people keep on discovering also. People keep on inventing also, adding to so many other varieties. And they don't get find time for study of spirituality at all. That is where Raja Yoga becomes necessary, where there is a study of the self. Raja Yoga involves Swadhyaya as well. So we should again appreciate Patanjali that he put all these four into one system called Ashtanga Yoga, where everything is there. Patanjali's system of Ashtanga Yoga is designed as a combination of all of the above yogic methods. This is performed to achieve the complete health, which includes the physical health, the psychological health, and the spiritual health. And the Ashtanga Yoga consists of 8 limbs as indicated below, as you already know. The first one is Yama, second one is Niyama, third one Asana, then Pranayama, then Pratyahara, then Dharana, then Dhyana, then Samadhi. Yama is social discipline, whereas Niyama is individual discipline. Yama is for better character and conduct, Niyama is for better hygiene and dedication. What is yama? Ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. These 5, I think Patanjali took it from the Jain faith system itself. Because even in the Jain faith system, these 5 are there even now. So ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. These are for social discipline, better character and conduct. Niyama is shaucha, santosha, tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhana. This is for better hygiene and dedication. Asana is for physical control. That is for better health, better strength. Pranayama is for energetic control. That is for experiencing the life force. Pratyahara is for sensory control, for focusing the conscious mind. Dharana is for internal concentration. It is to control the memory recall. Dhyana is for total contemplation. It is for stoppage of the thoughts. And finally, Samadhi is the dissolution of the ego. That is for the realization of the self. This way Maharshi Patanjali put all those 4 branches of yoga into one set of practices. One set of practice in which there are 8 parts or 8 limbs. Let us see what is yama and niyama. Yama is, as I told earlier, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. Non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, physical and mental celibacy, and aparigraha means having only those things with me which I can afford, which I can manage. Let me not have many things at my home which I cannot manage. People who are involved in the spiritual path should live a simple life as much as possible. Let us say you have a single bedroom house or a 2-bedroom house, and in the 2-bedroom house, let us say for maintaining your own prestige or maintaining your own status, you will go for a big sofa set at your home, and let us say your living room or hall is occupied by this particular sofa set. Now, if at all I come to your home and if at all I ask you, do you practice yoga daily? Then you will say, sir, we don't have space at all, sir. What you have done? You have filled the space with lavishness. Without the sofa set also, people can sit on the floor. Without the sofa set also, people can have some simple chairs. And those simple chairs can be easily kept on top of each other whenever many people come to home. That is what we do at our home. Honestly, my dear friends, at our home, we don't have sofa set. And we will not have sofa set also. At our home, recently we got a cable connection. Otherwise, still last 2 years, we never had a cable connection. We only had a Doordarshan connection. Regular television broadcasting connection with the rooftop antenna. But 2 years before, Doordarshan itself stopped this regular broadcasting. So I was forced to get the dish antenna connection. I was forced to buy a set-top box along with the dish antenna. That is how now at our home we have cable connection, that too free dish connection only. And whatever some good channels are there, we watch those channels only. We even now watch regular national network channel only and some other decent channels. Even though there are hundreds of channels, we select some of those channels. Now that way of living is aparigraha. Not to have all those things in your life which are going to hinder the spiritual progress. That requires applying force on the soul, applying force on the ego, applying force on the self. So, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha is called yama. Now regarding this brahmacharya, there need not be further confusion. Remaining unmarried is brahmacharya, is what is generally thought of. But I think I have already told you the story of Vedavyasa and Jaimini. I think I have told you already. Please remind me. If I have not told you, I'll anyhow tell you in the today's session or next session. But I think I have already told you. So what is basically brahmacharya? I have already told you the story of Nityopavasi and Nitya Brahmachari. I have told you the story of Vasistha and Vishwamitra. Yes, I have told. So I have already told you about what is meant by brahmacharya. Yaha brahmani charati, saha brahmachari. That way, remaining unmarried is what is yoga, that people need not think. Marriage and yoga have no such relationship at all. In fact, marriage is going to give you a social responsibility. Okay, so that way yama is ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya and aparigraha. And what is niyama? Niyama is shaucha, santosha, tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhana. Shaucha means remaining clean. Shucheha bhavaha shaucham. Remaining physically clean, remaining mentally clean. For remaining mentally clean, santosha, having contentment. And then tapas. Tapas means purposefully involving in something which is above normal lifestyle. Generally, tapa means heat or warmth. Tapas means remaining warm or remaining under excitement, remaining under a certain amount of anxiety, so as to get away from the mundane life and get into the spiritual life. Remaining alone as much as possible, so that to have control over the self. That is basically called as tapas. Swadhyaya means studying about the self, studying the holy scriptures. And Ishvara Pranidhana means having devotion towards the omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, divine, infinite consciousness. So Patanjali has put all of them into one set called Ashtanga Yoga, where again in Yama and Niyama, he put 5 each. So as I told you, even Raja Yoga is part of Ashtanga Yoga. Why? Samadhi is also there in Ashtanga Yoga. Swadhyaya is also there in Ashtanga Yoga. Ishvara Pranidhana is also there in Ashtanga Yoga. Tapas is also there in Ashtanga Yoga. That means whatever was described in the Shiva Samhita as 4 branches of yoga, all the essential requirements for attaining union is put by Patanjali into his system of Ashtanga Yoga. The person who is aspiring to learn yoga should follow Yama and Niyama as far as possible. Otherwise, without following these, if he or she tries to practice the other 6 disciplines, he or she will not be successful in achieving the ultimate goal, as the energy that is going to be utilized will not be in the pure form. As I told you, how can you expect that your mind will come under control as long as you are a slave of your own thoughts, or as long as you are a slave of your own desires? Unless the memory recall is not actually arrested, or unless the memory recall is not actually regulated or controlled, how can you think that even the chanting of mantras will make you stable or pure? Nothing is going to work that way. That is what I told. Many times, even in the spiritual path, people remain hypocritical. Inside they are something else, outside they show something else. People who keep on chanting the mantras, they think that they have become more nearer to God. Actually, they have become far away from God when they are inside something else and when they are outside something else. Only at the outside, if they keep showing off that they are chanting a lot of mantras, and at the inside, if they have evil thoughts or selfish thoughts, then how are they becoming nearer to God? They are foolish that way. That is what I called as a hypocritical lifestyle. Same case with Hatha Yoga also. People keep on practicing lot of varieties of yoga asanas in the morning, and the same people in the evening, they consume meat. Even those people who are practicing yoga asana, they also consume meat in the evening. Then how can they say that they are become nearer to God? They have not understood the meaning of yoga. Why I am telling this is, I have been seeing so many such people who are living a hypocritical life. People go into a lot of meditation classes, but gradually their character also does not change, and they remain the same people even after 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. But they keep going to meditation classes also. What do they learn in the meditation classes? Or what is taught in those meditation classes? If there is no characteristic change with the people's lifestyle, unless there is a physical purity and mental purity, how can there be a spiritual purity? So, without following yama and niyama, if anybody tries to practice the other 6 disciplines, then they will not be successful in achieving the ultimate goal. Whatever they have been doing, they will keep on doing the same. They will not be achieving the ultimate goal. Fish will never be coming in contact with water, even though water is always accessible to the fish. So as the energy that is going to be utilized will not be in the pure form at all. There will not be any kundalini awakening at all. There will not be any egolessness happening at all. That way self-realization is far, far away. That is why yama and niyama was put in the beginning itself by Patanjali. That is when I discussed earlier about the religious aspect of spirituality. Why in Buddhism and in Jainism and even in Christianity, even in Yehudism, or even in all types of, let us say, Farsi faith system, Sikh faith system, any particular religious faith system it is, what did they actually recommend for the God realization? They always recommended the mental purity, right? Now, if that is not practiced, how can there be self-realization? In that way, all religions have a common goal, that is to uplift the humankind. Even the yoga is also aligned towards the same goal. Somebody made a beautiful picture of this yama and niyama. I have put it here. Yama is do unto others, and niyama is how to treat the self. See, yama is ahimsa, practice non-violence. Satya, tell the truth. Asat asteya, don't steal. Brahmacharya, consciously direct your energy. Aparigraha, avoid hoarding and greediness. Next, shaucha, cleanliness is important. Santosha, try to be content. Tapas, do your best. Swadhyaya, study yourself. Ishvara pranidhana, stay humble. Actually, the stay humble is a wrong interpretation. Ishvara pranidhana means devotion towards God. Ishvara means the Lord of the universe. So, this particular sentence, stay humble, is a wrong translation. But still, I appreciate the person whoever made this picture. I have simply copied this picture from the internet. So, I cannot comment on the person who made this translation. At least the person made all other things beautiful. So, this is yama and niyama. Yamas and niyamas. They have put it in English. Let us compare yogasanas versus other exercises. With the practice of yogasanas, blood circulation improves fully and is of uniform distribution. With the other exercises, it improves only to some extent and is of unequal distribution. For example, there are many people who keep on going for walking in the evening, sometimes in the early morning. In fact, that is not actually a good habit. Now, people may object my sentence, but it is not actually a good habit. The reason is, In the very early morning, if you go for walking in the Bangalore city, in the winter season, there is enough moisture in the air. That moisture will be inhaled into the lungs and moisture will stay inside the lungs. Unless that moisture is warmed up, unless your lungs is expelling that particular moisture, that moisture remains inside the lungs. So early morning going for a walk, especially in Bangalore city or in any cold region, that is not advisable. Same way, even in the evening, in the cold air, going for walking is not advisable. That is one reason. Second reason, walking is not going to improve the blood circulation everywhere. Only the blood towards the legs will be circulated better, because during walking, it is only the legs which are continuously moving. So, blood circulation improves only to some extent and is of unequal distribution. Somebody wanted to ask a question? Okay, type it fully later on, let me see. Okay, the question is whether our activities and karma of Purva Janma affects our destiny of the present Janma in spiritual point of view. It will affect our present Janma not in the spiritual point of view. It is in the physical and the mental point of view. Through the spiritual point of view, it is possible to eradicate the karma completely. So, basically karma is what? Basically karma is whatever you have brought forward from your previous lives as part of your memory. Now when the same memory continues in this life, same habits continue, same characterization also continues to some extent. Now that way it is going to influence your present life also, or present Janma also. That is affecting your destiny. That is right. But in the spiritual point of view, it is possible to correct your memory recall, right? Later on I am going to tell about Sanchita, Prarabdha and Agami. There are three types of karma. I am going to talk about it in detail anyhow later on. But for the time being, let me tell you that through the path of yoga or through the path of spiritual practice, not only just yoga, whatever types of practices I had told till now, through that, when it is possible to erase memory itself, it is possible to erase karma itself, because ultimately karma is related to memory only, right? It is possible to erase memory itself. That is why I was telling you about Laya Yoga as the method of spiritual exercises, Mantra Yoga as the continuous mental chanting, where memory recall is also controlled, memory storage is also controlled, and actually memory is enhanced by means of Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga, by means of Swadhyaya and by Ishwar Pranidhana. There is something called Bhakti Yoga. Shravanam, Kirtanam Shambhoho, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyamatma Nivedanam. These are called Navavidha Bhakti. 9 types of devotion towards the Lord, by means of which mind can be completely purified, memory can be completely purified. It is possible by means of Bhakti Yoga. And to tell you one more shloka, it's an earnest prayer to God in such a way that I'm trying to recall that verse. Vinadainyena Jivanam, Anayasena Maranam, Dehante Tavasannidhyam, Dehime Parameshwara. Vinadainyena Jivanam means, God, let me live a life with enough righteousness, without any lot of physical and mental pain. Anayasena Maranam means, Lord, let me have a physical death without any lot of trouble, without any lot of bedridden time without any lot of suffering. Vina dainyena jivanam anayasena maranam dehante tava sannidhyam. Lord, when I leave the body, let me be with you only. Dehante tava sannidhyam dehi me parameshwara. O Lord, grant me that. This is a very earnest prayer. Now, how this prayer is possible? By means of physical and mental purification. And that is what is the eradication of karma itself. That way it is possible to completely nullify karma. Anyway, when I start the practical classes, when you start practicing Laya Yoga, you will actually understand all this in a much better way, because everything is basically a personal journey here. Even spiritual experiences also are going to be personal. Now that is the answer for that question. There is another question here. Physical and mental experience are experienced in mind and stored in memory, whereas spiritual experience is beyond sense organs and mind. How such experiences are remembered, or how where it is stored? Spiritual experiences are non-physical, but they are mental only, right? To some extent, spiritual experiences are physical as well. Basically, whatever you mention as spiritual experience is basically energetic experience. Energetic experience can be physical as well. For example, prana itself is spiritual for that matter. But prana is not experienced by the normal people. Unless you are involved in pranic healing, or unless you are involved in pranayama, where you purify your body heavily and you energize your body heavily, you will have energetic experience. Kundalini itself is one type of prana only, but it is a primordial prana. Kundalini itself can be experienced only when you practice such technical things or tantric things. That is part of Kundalini Tantra. Those who do not practice such things at all, for them there is no such experience. So whatever you call a spiritual experience is related to body and mind also. It is not isolated from body and mind. Anything that is isolated from body and mind, there is no experience at all there, right? For example, only fish will have experience. Water has no experience at all. Even though water gave rise to fish, even though water created fish within itself, water is not having any sense organs. Water is not having any body or mind. So water will not have any experience. It is the fish which is going to have experience of itself, its own body, its own mind, along with the experience of water also. Fish will have the experience of water. Water will never have the experience of fish. Water does not require such experience at all. Why? Water itself created experience, right? Now God will never have any experience. God only produced experience in the physical world, right? You want to have a godly experience. God, does he want to have your experience? Nothing as such. So that way, don't think that spiritual experiences are beyond the sense organs. They are within the sense organs. When I told you that I saw a flower when I closed my eyes, what does it mean? I was very much awake. I was having my sense organs. I was having my mind. Still, I was seeing that flower which nobody else could see. It is a spiritual experience only. So when it comes to the discussion of spiritual experiences, we can say they are metaphysical experiences or paranormal experiences which normal people do not have, or normal physical life does not have. I should tell you one more of my experience. One day I was going on my bike to my office, and I was crossing this Sambika road in Malleshwaram. In the 7th cross, I was moving up, and I was near the junction of the crossroad and the main road. And at that junction, suddenly I smelled something, a fragrant, pleasant smell. I looked around. There was nothing called flower or nobody. It was early morning, around 9 o'clock in the morning. There are no merchants will be there at that time. And no footpath vendors also will be there at that time. Otherwise, generally, in the evening time, the flower vendors will come there. So it was morning around 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was going in on my bike, and I was not standing there also. I was continuously traveling. And that smell, I could smell it for about 1 or 2 minutes. And I kept on watching from where this particular smell is coming. It was a main road and a crossroad junction. I could not see anything that was emanating that particular fragrance. And that fragrance was not connected to any flowers. Now, when you practice Kundalini Yoga, you will start smelling such things which are paranormal. That means, what is basically a smell or a fragrance? It is a physical emanence of something different which normal people cannot sense. When you refine your senses, you can have experiences which normal people cannot have. That is the answer. More about it only when you start practicing Kundalini Yoga. Okay, there is another question now. Can we tell that since we are in Kali Yuga at present, those who are spiritually nurtured will dissolve in God and attain Swarga much earlier? Others need to suffer with all the difficulties in life because of his karma and later only will leave his physical body. Yeah, you're right that way, but it is not Swarga. We can say Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, Suvarloka, or the divine abode, we can say. Because in general, Swarga means heaven. Whenever we say Swarga, people will visualize Indra and the 5 damsels or the 5 celestial dancers. That is not that Swarga we say. That Swarga and Naraka as such do not exist. Whatever they call it as heaven and hell, they actually do not exist. That is a mythical concept. Okay. Now, if I live a good life, let us say I live a virtuous life, and if I don't attain salvation, after I leave my physical body, I will be with my own vibes, and because of those resonant vibes, I will be in the dimension where those vibes are present, where I will be pleasant. That state can be called as Swarga. Instead, let us say I am living an evil life and I leave my body. In the evil life, I have a contaminated pranamaya kosha, contaminated energy body. And even after the physical death, I will be having an existence with this contamination itself, and that dimension which I only have created for myself, that itself is hell. Otherwise, there is nothing called heaven and hell. There is nothing called Swarga and Naraka. So that way I should say, those who are spiritually nurtured will dissolve in God. That is fine. They will have salvation or liberation which is earlier. Or even if they have the next life, they will have a better life as the next life because they have a better memory, better realization. All other people need to suffer. That way you are right. That is what is the law of karma. Others need to suffer with all the difficulties in life because their memory itself is their suffering, right? Whatever they carry in their memory, they are going to remain that way. As long as they remain that way, when they are not going to realize themselves, then the law of karma will repeat. Means what? Lessons will be repeated until lessons are learned. That is the answer for that particular question. Okay, there is one more question. How to introduce children to spirituality? Is it an interest that comes from within or parents have a role in it? Both are there. Parents have to introduce it at least. That is the parents' role. How to introduce children to spirituality? Best one is mantra yoga. As I told you earlier, easiest one is mantra yoga, then it is laya yoga, then it is hatha yoga, then it is raja yoga. So best one is mantra yoga. Initiate your child into the practice of mantra. Any mantra, maybe Panchakshari mantra, maybe Ashtakshari mantra, maybe Gayatri mantra. In whichever way you feel comfortable, or in whichever way your faith system allows it. That way you can introduce your child into mantra yoga. That is spirituality only. And if the interest is already there within in the child, that means the child has inherited it from the previous life, then that is a boon for you. Means your child is born with such interest, means gradually you can nurture it. Otherwise, let us say your child is not having that interest. It doesn't matter. You can gradually initiate your child into mantra yoga. So both are there. Parents' role is also there. And if the previous life's culture is brought forward to this particular life, that is anyhow going to be exhibited. Whatever is already there in the memory, that is anyhow going to be exhibited without the parents' role also. Ramana, when he decided to leave his house and sit in a cave in Tiruvannamalai, nobody influenced him. Nobody influenced him. And he had no teacher also. Which means what? That interest came from within, means he brought it from his previous life itself. That search for the truth was already there in him. That made him to work that way, stay that way. There is a next question about Kaya Kalpa. Is it also part of yoga? Kaya Kalpa basically is an Ayurvedic term. It is not part of yoga. But recently some people have brought it into yoga also. They should be blamed. Okay, I can't blame them directly because they will blame me also. But the answer to your question is this. Kaya Kalpa. Kaya means body. Kalpa means non-aging body. The body which can withstand the challenges of time. Kalpa basically means time or eons. Large amount of time is called Kalpa. Now body can withstand the challenges of time. That is called Kaya Kalpa. In Ayurveda, there is this method where the person is ingested with some particular medicines, and through that medicine, that person will gradually go into Savikalpa Samadhi forcibly. When the person goes into Savikalpa Samadhi forcibly by means of these medicines, he will or she will remain like that maybe for a few weeks or for a few months. It is almost a near death state, or it is almost like a coma state. But what happens at that time is body will have enough energy. This Kaya Kalpa therapy is performed with the consent of the person who already has enough energy in the body. Now, what happens is when that person remains for a few weeks or a few months in the Savikalpa Samadhi by the ingestion of such herbal medicines, now even the fallen tooth will grow again. Even the fallen hairs on the head will grow again. And body will again get rejuvenated into youth. Old body will become a young body again. That is called Kaya Kalpa. But such great therapy is not known to many. Even to the Ayurvedic doctors also, it is not known. There was a great saint called Tapaswiji Maharaj. He had undergone Kaya Kalpa 3 times in his life. And he had lived for more than 160 years by means of the Kaya Kalpa therapy. Now I don't know whether anybody is there who knows that particular medicine meant for Kaya Kalpa. It is actually a continuous ingestion of medicines for a few days where a pit will be dug in the ground and the person will be made to lie down in the ground, and then to that person only the medicine is ingested. In Bengaluru, there is an area called Amritahalli. In Amritahalli, there was a Swamiji earlier who used to perform this Kaya Kalpa. And at that time, almost 20 years before, and he used to charge 1 lakh rupees at that time for that Kaya Kalpa, because that was expensive. He used to have very rare herbal medicines with him, and it was a very risky process. And both the persons who used to come to him were ready to face the risk. And mostly foreigners only used to come to him, because Indians were busy in earning money and spending money. Only foreigners used to come. They used to take this Kayakalpa therapy and then they used to go away. Now that Swamiji is no more there in Amritahalli, and there is nobody who knows this Kayakalpa as far as I know. Maybe nobody learnt it from him. I was not having a personal contact with him. Okay. My old friend who knows me used to know him also. That's all. Because you can ask me, why you did not learn, sir? You should not ask me. That's what I'm telling. I never had a personal contact with that particular Swamiji. If I had a personal contact, I would have tried to learn from him, provided he was also ready to teach me. But that contact did not happen at all. So I am telling you all this in detail because that Kayakalpa was very much real that way. And I have the book with me of Tapaswiji Maharaj's biography itself. Okay, Tapaswiji Maharaj used to visit Bangalore as well at that time. But now as such, I don't know whether there are anybody who knows this Kayakalpa in Bangalore or not. But in the Himalayan region, there will be definitely somebody who knows Kayakalpa. So that is different, and yoga is different. Yoga is divine union. Yoga is self-realization. Kayakalpa is making the body to face the challenges of life, face the challenges of environment. So if Kayakalpa can help in yoga, in what way? Let us say Tapaswiji Maharaj had Kayakalpa treatment for 3 times in his life. He lived for 160 years. That means he got more time to meditate. He got more time for spiritual practices. If that helped him in attaining yoga, then Kayakalpa is advised. But for attaining yoga, Kayakalpa need not be always necessary. Progress in yoga can be faster if you simply follow whatever your guru says. That is enough. Then Kayakalpa is not necessary. As I've told you, Adi Shankara lived only for 32 years. Whatever he did for 32 years, in the normal scene, people would not do it even for 320 years or for 3200 years also. Whatever Adi Shankara did for 32 years is a great achievement. Even though he was having a life which was much smaller, his achievement was much bigger. Adi Shankara did not go through the path of Kayakalpa. For him, body was nothing. He did not give any importance to body at all. He did not speak about body. He did not speak about mind in any of his writings. He always spoke about Atman, Brahman, self, God. That way Kayakalpa need not always be necessary. But still I appreciate those saints or sages, the rishis who belong to the path of Ayurveda. They developed many such methodologies so that even physical body is given equal importance, because physical health is also equally important. So let me conclude my answer saying Kayakalpa is not part of yoga. Kayakalpa is part of Ayurveda. But Kayakalpa can help somebody in achieving yoga. However, Kayakalpa is not really very much necessary for yoga as well. But there are some people who have now attributed the term of Kayakalpa into yoga. They are actually diverting from the path of yoga. There is nothing called Kayakalpa yoga. This I directly tell you. There is nothing called Kayakalpa yoga. Yoga is different, Kayakalpa is different. Just like there are so many yoga types which are coming into the field where every person is naming them in their own style, their own fashion, they are confusing people more and more. That is the answer. Okay, with this, let me stop the session for today. It is already 9:05 now. Let me discuss this particular slide once again in tomorrow's session. See you tomorrow. Until then, take care and goodbye.